our anniversary dinner, my husband proudly introduced his affair partner as the upgrade. He was clueless that it would be the very last time she would see him. Before we continue, I would like to ask you to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and leave a comment about where you are watching from. Let's go back to where it all began. As I walked into the dimly lit restaurant, holding onto Max's arm, I could feel the eyes on us. It was our 10th anniversary, and this dinner was supposed to mark a decade of love and commitment. The soft music played a sweet melody, but my heart raced for a reason I couldn't yet understand. Max had been distant lately, wrapped up in his work, or so he claimed. As we were led to our table, adorned with red roses, my favorites, I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling gnawing at my gut. "Happy anniversary, love," I murmured, trying to ignite the warmth that once defined us. He smiled, a practiced hollow curve of the lips. "You look beautiful, as always," he replied, his eyes scanning the room as if looking for someone. And then, as we settled into our seats, that someone appeared. She was striking, undeniably so, with a confident walk and a predatory smile. Victoria, his colleague, approached our table with the arrogance of someone who knew she owned the situation. Max stood up, his actions unfolding like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. "I'd like you to meet Victoria," he said, his voice steady and cold. The upgrade. The words hung heavy in the air, a brutal slap to everything we had built. Victoria extended her hand, a sly smile playing on her lips, her eyes mocking the shock that must have been evident on my face. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Excuse me," I whispered, my voice barely a thread of sound. I walked out, not just from the restaurant, but from the life I thought I knew. Outside, the cool night air did little to soothe the burn of humiliation. How long had he been deceiving me? How could I have been so blind? But as the initial shock waned, a spark of something fierce and calm settled in its place. I knew then that my love for Max would not be the end of my story, but the start of his downfall. I walked home alone, the city lights blurring into streaks of gold as tears threatened to fall. But I wouldn't cry. Not yet. I had plans to make, truths to uncover, and a deceitful heart to expose. Tonight marked the end of our marriage, but it also sparked the beginning of his unraveling. As I reached our now tainted home, I paused at the door, taking a deep breath. The game was just beginning, and I was no longer just the betrayed wife. I was the player he never expected to confront. I would use every skill I had, every resource at my disposal, to bring him and his mistress down. Max had made a critical mistake. He underestimated me. Turning the key in the lock, I stepped into the dark house, a plan forming in my mind. It was time to show Max that I was not just an ornament in his life, but the architect of his demise. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a war, and I was now leading the charge. In the quiet of my home, I sat at the old oak desk that had seen years of our life's trivialities and triumphs. It was here that I would orchestrate the downfall of Max and his mistress, Victoria. As a forensic accountant, my days were spent unraveling financial mysteries, and now I would apply my expertise to expose the duplicity of the man I once loved. Each click of the keyboard was a step towards their undoing. I had begun to collect evidence weeks ago, when Max's late nights at the office and hurried phone calls sparked a silent alarm in my mind. My suspicions led me to quietly access his company accounts, where irregularities began to emerge like dark stains on clean linen. Victoria, blissfully unaware of my intentions, continued to flaunt her victory. She was often seen around town wearing extravagant items that Max could never afford on his salary alone. Each piece of jewelry, each designer dress, was not just a symbol of their affair, but a receipt of his embezzlement. I compiled detailed reports, cross-referencing bank statements with company records, piecing together the flow of money that Max funneled into Victoria's lavish lifestyle. The numbers never lied, and these told a story of greed and betrayal that would shock even the most cynical. With every piece of evidence, I felt a twinge of the love that had turned to ash. But this was not a time for mourning. It was a time for action. I reached out to old contacts and friends in legal and financial circles, setting the stage for the legal checkmate that would see them both behind bars. As the evidence mounted, so did my resolve. There was no joy in this revenge. It was a necessary end to a saga of deceit. I imagined the look on Max's face when he realized that his own wife had outsmarted him, that his underestimation of me would be his undoing. One evening, as I finalized my preparations, I poured myself a glass of wine, the same red we had shared on countless nights together. I toasted to the end of an era and to the new life that awaited me, free from the shadows of deceit. The plan was set. I would confront them at the same restaurant where my humiliation had unfolded. It would be public, decisive. The evidence was irrefutable, and I had secured the cooperation of federal agents ready to act on my signal. I slept little that night, the adrenaline coursing through my veins, mingling with a sense of surreal anticipation. By morning, I was a statue of calm, poised to reclaim my life and dignity. After weeks of meticulous planning, the day had arrived when I would unexpectedly cross paths with Max and Victoria. The crisp autumn air was a sharp contrast to the storm brewing within me as I strolled through the bustling streets, my heart a mix of dread and determination. As fate would have it, I spotted them at a distance, casually emerging from a chic boutique, laughter echoing between them, their arms linked, cocooned in their deceitful bliss. Max, ever the charmer, was animatedly pointing at something across the street, while Victoria clung to his arm, her laughter carefree and unburdened by guilt. What truly caught my attention, however, wasn't their intimacy. It was the gleaming piece of silver encircling Victoria's wrist. It was unmistakable, even from several yards away. The delicate filigree bracelet that had once belonged to my grandmother, a family heirloom I had cherished and thought lost in the past year. The sight of it on her wrist, the sunlight catching on its intricate designs, was like a visual echo of their betrayal. My steps slowed as I approached, the noise of the city fading into a muted background. They hadn't noticed me yet, lost in their own world, a bubble I was about to burst. I felt a cold calm settle over me, the kind that sharpens the senses and narrows the world to a single point of focus. "Victoria!" I called out, my voice clear and carrying. They both turned, surprise etching their features, their false security shattering in an instant. Victoria's smile faltered, her eyes widening as she recognized me, the smile slipping from her lips as if the strings holding it had been cut. Max's expression hardened, the charm dropping away to reveal a hint of the man he had become. "What a surprise to see you here," he managed, his tone strained, a poor mask for his anxiety. I smiled, not the warm smile of old times, but a thin, knowing curve of my lips. "Indeed it is," I said, my gaze fixed on the bracelet. "Especially to see such a precious piece of my past on Victoria's wrist. However did you come by such a unique item, Victoria?" Her hand instinctively went to the bracelet, fingers brushing against it, as if to confirm its reality. "It's just a bracelet. Nothing more," she stammered, her confidence wavering under the weight of my stare. "Just a bracelet?" I echoed softly, stepping closer. "An interesting choice of words for something that carries so much history. A history you're both well aware of, I'm sure." The tension was palpable, the air thick with the unsaid. I watched as realization dawned on Victoria's face, the understanding that this was no casual meeting, and the bracelet was no simple accessory but a clue to a much larger truth I was about to unravel. "I'll leave you to think about where things really stand," I said, turning to leave them frozen on the sidewalk. the stolen piece of history a tangible symbol of their deep deception and my impending revenge. The encounter on the street had shaken them, I could tell. The sight of Victoria wearing my grandmother's stolen bracelet not only symbolized their deceit, but also marked the unraveling of their carefully woven web of lies. As they retreated, I turned towards my office, where walls lined with evidence awaited. Today was the day I would dismantle their facade of innocence. Back at my desk, I spread out the evidence I had meticulously compiled over the past months. Bank statements, credit card receipts, and emails painted a clear picture of embezzlement and financial fraud. Max had been funneling company funds to support his lavish lifestyle with Victoria, and every piece of evidence was a nail in the coffin of his corporate persona. I arranged the documents in chronological order, creating a timeline of deceit. The first document was a bank statement, showing a large withdrawal that coincidentally aligned with an expensive piece of jewelry Max had gifted Victoria. Emails between Max and various jewelry stores confirmed the purchases, all under the guise of business expenses. Another set of documents detailed a series of unexplained payments to a mysterious account, which after weeks of digging, I had linked directly to Victoria. It was clear she was more than just a mistress. She was an accomplice in draining the financial resources of Max's company. As I organized the files, I prepared for the meeting I had scheduled with the company's board. They had been growing suspicious of Max's management, and with the evidence I would present, their suspicions would turn into decisive action. The meeting was set in the same conference room where I had once watched Max charm his way up the corporate ladder. As the board members filed in, their faces etched with concern and curiosity, I greeted them with a nod, my resolve firm. "Thank you for meeting me today," I began, my voice steady. "What I am about to reveal will be disturbing, but it is necessary for the future of this company and the integrity of everyone associated with it." I clicked the projector to life, and the first slide appeared, a chart correlating Max's unauthorized transactions with the company's financial dips. "As you can see here," I continued, pointing to the peaks and valleys of the graph, "each significant withdrawal from the company's accounts coincides with personal expenditures made by Max." I handed out copies of the evidence, watching as the board members' eyes widened in disbelief. "These are not mere coincidences," I stated. "These are calculated thefts, designed to support an extramarital affair and a lifestyle far beyond his means." The room was heavy with silence as they absorbed the information. I switched to the next slide, a series of photographs documenting the luxurious items Max had purchased for Victoria, including the damning bracelet. "This bracelet," I explained, "once belonged to my grandmother. It was among the items bought with embezzled funds, a symbol of the depth of deception that has been played at your trust and the company's expense." I could see the betrayal in their eyes, the dawning realization of how deep the fraud ran. Questions began to fly, each more urgent than the last, their former respect for Max disintegrating in the face of irrefutable evidence. "As difficult as this is, I ask for your cooperation to bring this matter to legal authorities," I concluded. "We need to act, not only to recover what has been lost, but to ensure that justice is served." As the meeting adjourned, the board members thanked me, their expressions a mix of gratitude and shock. I packed up my documents, the weight of the evidence matched only by the relief of its revelation. The web had been unraveled, each strand leading back to Max and Victoria, their scheme exposed by the very evidence they had thought hidden. The evening air was crisp as I approached the restaurant, the site of my deepest humiliation, and soon, to be the stage of my ultimate vindication. The restaurant's warm glow spilled out onto the streets, a beacon of normalcy and unsuspecting revelry. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with the clatter of fine dining, the rich aromas of gourmet food mingling with the low hum of conversation. Max and Victoria were nestled in their usual secluded corner, their laughter carrying over the gentle music, a stark contrast to the storm brewing just out of sight. I settled discreetly at the bar, my presence unnoticed, the perfect vantage point from which to witness their downfall. My heart was a drum, echoing the tense rhythm of the impending confrontation. Gave a subtle nod to the waiting FBI agents, a signal that the time had come. They positioned themselves with practiced ease, their expressions unreadable as they approached the table where Max and Victoria dined. The murmurs of the other diners were soon drowned out by the clear, authoritative voice of the lead agent. Max, Richardson and Victoria Lane, please stand up. You are under arrest for embezzlement and financial fraud, he declared, his voice firm and loud enough for the surrounding tables to overhear. The restaurant's ambiance shifted, the air charged. With a mix of curiosity and shock, Max's fork clattered to his plate, his face turning ashen as he stood, his confident demeanor crumbling under the weight of his reality. Victoria's reaction was more visceral, her face contorting in confusion and fear as she clutched at Max's arm, her other hand subconsciously touching the bracelet that had sealed their fate. As they were read their rights, I could see the realization dawning on Victoria's face, the understanding of just how deep the web of their actions had been. Unraveled. Max, meanwhile, seemed to shrink, his eyes darting around the room, perhaps looking for an ally or an escape that didn't exist. The other diners had now turned their chairs to watch, their meals forgotten, as the agents handcuffed Max and Victoria. The click of the cuffs was like the final turn of the lock on their prison of deceit. Their escorted walk through the restaurant was slow, each step a testament to their disgrace. I remained at the bar, sipping the same vintage red wine that Max and I had once shared in happier times. Watching them being led away, I allowed myself a small smile, not of joy, but of closure. The public nature of their arrest was the final piece of the puzzle, ensuring their betrayal and crimes were exposed for all to see. After they disappeared, into the night, the buzz of the restaurant slowly returned to normal, though tinged with whispers and speculations. I lingered a moment longer, finishing my wine, the taste of which had never been more satisfying. As I left the restaurant, the cool night seemed to congratulate me with its whispers of wind, the city lights brighter than I remembered. I walked with a lighter step, the chains of the past finally broken. The legal checkmate was complete, and with it, a chapter of my life closed forever, leaving space for new beginnings built on the foundation of justice and integrity. The days following the arrest were a whirlwind of media frenzy and corporate upheaval. As the news of Max's embezzlement and arrest became public, the company he had once led was thrust into turmoil. However, within that chaos lay my opportunity to not only turn the tables, but to emerge as a key figure in reshaping the company that Max had almost destroyed. In the wake of his disgrace, the board was desperate for someone who could restore stability and trust. Given my intricate involvement in uncovering the fraud and my background in forensic accounting, I was approached to step into a temporary leadership role. I accepted, determined to use this chance to rectify the wrongs and set a new course for the company. My first action in this new capacity was to address the entire company. I stood before the gathered employees, many of whom were uncertain and fearful about their future, and delivered a speech that I hoped would mark the beginning of a healing process. "We have been through a storm," I began, my voice steady, projecting not just authority, but empathy. But it is in the aftermath of such storms that we discover our true resilience. I outlined a plan for restructuring that involved transparent financial practices and a renewed focus on ethical leadership. Over the next few weeks, I worked tirelessly, reviewing contracts, meeting with every department, and establishing a new code of conduct that everyone, from the executives to interns, was required to sign. As part of this restructuring, I also took on the delicate task of liaising with federal investigators to ensure that all aspects of Max's criminal activities were fully documented and would serve as a strong case for his prosecution. This involved many long nights poring over documents and evidence, ensuring nothing was missed. The more I delved into the company's affairs, the more I realized how extensive the damage was. Max had not only embezzled funds, but had also engaged, in risky business deals that threatened the very foundation of the company. One by one, I addressed these issues, unwinding deals, and negotiating settlements that favored the company's long-term health over short-term gains. During this period, I also became the point of contact for the media. I handled press conferences with a focus on transparency and the steps we were taking to ensure such breaches of trust would never happen again. "This is a new era for us," I told reporters, "one where integrity and accountability are not just expected, but demanded." As the weeks turned into months, the company began to stabilize. Share prices recovered as confidence in our operational integrity was restored. The employees started to trust in the leadership again, their morale bolstered by the clear changes happening at all levels. When the trial began, I was called to testify. Walking into the courtroom, I felt the weight of the entire journey on my shoulders. Yet, as I took the stand and recounted the meticulous detail of the fraud Max had committed, I felt a sense of empowerment. Here, in this legal arena, the final act of the saga unfolded. Max was found guilty on all counts, his sentence a testament to the severity of his crimes. As the judge handed down the verdict, I allowed myself a moment of quiet satisfaction. I had not only dismantled Max's empire of lies, but had also built something far more enduring, a legacy of integrity. As I walked out of the courtroom, I knew that while this chapter was closed, the next was just beginning. The company was now on a path to recovery, its future bright, and as I looked ahead, I was no longer the victim of a tragic betrayal, but the architect of a new vision. The conclusion of the trial marked a definitive end to a tumultuous chapter, but it also heralded the beginning of a new era for both the company and myself. With Max's criminal activities brought to light and his subsequent imprisonment, the board of directors unanimously voted to offer me the permanent role of CEO. It was a testament to the trust they had in my ability to not only uncover deceit, but to lead the company towards a prosperous future. Accepting the position, I was fully aware of the monumental task ahead. The company, once a thriving enterprise, under Max's leadership, had suffered not just financially, but also in its corporate reputation. My first goal as CEO was to redefine our corporate identity and restore public confidence. I initiated a series of strategic moves designed to stabilize and then grow the business. This included divesting from non-core assets that Max had acquired, which were draining resources without providing real value. I also spearheaded a campaign to rebrand the company, focusing on our commitment to integrity and innovation. The rebranding was more than just a marketing strategy. It was a public declaration of our values and our promise to our customers and partners. We rolled out new product lines and entered into partnerships with other ethical companies, expanding our market presence and diversifying our revenue streams. Internally, I promoted a culture of transparency and accountability. I established regular town hall meetings where employees at all levels were encouraged to voice concerns and suggestions. This open dialogue fostered a sense of community and shared purpose, which was critical in regaining and nurturing the trust of our workforce. Moreover, I focused on investing in our employees, offering training and development programs that empowered them with new skills and career growth opportunities. This not only improved morale, but also positioned us as a desirable employer in a competitive industry. As the months turned into years, the results of these efforts began to manifest. Our financial health restored, we started reporting profits that exceeded the pre-crisis levels. The company's stock price rebounded and then surged, reflecting the market's renewed confidence in our direction and leadership. The media, once critical, now penned stories of our remarkable turnaround and the new tech innovations we were bringing to the market. During an interview with a major business magazine, I shared our journey, highlighting the lessons learned about the importance of ethical leadership and the value of a resilient team. Our success is not just measured by our financial statements, but by the trust we have rebuilt with our stakeholders and the positive impact we are making in the industry, I stated, my words echoing the ethos of the new era I was spearheading. Under my leadership, the company not only recovered, but also expanded, opening offices in new international markets and increasing our global footprint. Each new venture was a step away from the shadows of the past and a step towards a bright future. Reflecting on the journey, from the painful revelations of betrayal to the heights of corporate success, I realized how profoundly adversity had reshaped me. I was no longer the same person who had walked into that restaurant to face Max and Victoria. I had grown, evolved, and emerged not just as a leader, but as a visionary who had steered a faltering ship to new horizons. This transformation was not just personal, but emblematic of the broader change within the company. Together, we had turned a tale of deceit into a story of success, proving that with the right leadership and a commitment to values, it is possible to emerge from even the darkest times stronger and more determined. Years had passed since the corporate overhaul, and the company not only thrived, but became a beacon of innovation and integrity. This resurgence was mirrored in my own transformation from a betrayed spouse to a celebrated leader. The recognition of my efforts and success eventually transcended the industry, catapulting me into the global spotlight. It began subtly at first. Invitations to speak at business forums, requests for interviews from prominent business magazines, and panels discussing women in leadership. Each appearance built upon my reputation as a thought leader, not just within my company, but across the business world. The turning point came when a leading business publication featured me on its cover with the title Visionary of the Year. The article inside chronicled my journey from uncovering financial fraud to spearheading a corporate renaissance. It painted me not only as a survivor of personal and professional betrayal, but as an architect of change, championing corporate ethics and transparency. Following the publication, the floodgates opened. Invitations poured in from around the globe, asking me to share my insights on leadership, resilience, and corporate governance. Universities, think tanks, and global economic forums sought me out, eager to hear from the woman who had turned a failing company into a trailblazer for ethical business practices. As my travel schedule grew, so did my influence. Each speech and interview spread my message further, resonating with a wide audience that ranged from young entrepreneurs to seasoned executives. My story, a blend of personal grit and professional strategy, became a source of inspiration and a case study in business schools. One particular interview on a major international network marked another milestone. The interviewer, well known for his tough questions, asked, "Did you ever imagine, during the darkest days of your personal and professional life, that you would one day become an international symbol of successful leadership?" I paused, reflecting on the path that had led me here, and replied, "No, I never envisioned this. But leadership is often born out of necessity. When faced with profound challenges, you discover strengths you never knew you had. My focus was always on doing the right thing for the company and the people depending on it. The global recognition is not just mine, but a testament to the collective effort and the enduring spirit of our team." This interview went viral, further cementing my status as a role model for ethical leadership and perseverance. It wasn't long before Forbes listed me among the world's most powerful women, a recognition that felt surreal. Alongside names of women I had long admired, my journey from the depths of betrayal to the peaks of business acclaim was now celebrated globally. I also authored a best-selling book titled Rise, A Story of Business Renewal and Personal Triumph, which offered not just a recount of my experiences, but practical advice for navigating both business and personal crises. The book tours and signings turned into another platform for connecting with individuals seeking guidance and inspiration. Throughout this whirlwind of engagements and accolades, I remained committed to my core values. Each interview and appearance reinforced my message about the importance of integrity and the potential of righteous leadership to enact genuine change. My life had become a testament to the power of turning adversity into advantage, a narrative that encouraged and empowered others across the globe. Reflecting on this unexpected chapter of my life, I realized how adversity had not just tested, but honed my leadership. I had emerged not just unscathed, but fortified, ready to face any challenge with the knowledge that with integrity and determination, it is possible to transform even the direst situations into opportunities for growth and success. Years after the public downfall of Max and the triumph of my revitalized career, life had settled into a rhythm of success and impact, punctuated by the stories of those I had helped along the way. The office, once a battleground of betrayal, had transformed into a hub of innovation and ethics, a testament to the principles I had instilled. One crisp autumn morning, as I reviewed the agenda for an upcoming international conference on business ethics, an unexpected email notification appeared on my screen. It was from Max. His name, once a source of pain, now registered only as a distant memory of a life I had long since moved beyond. Curiosity piqued. I opened the message, the words on the screen momentarily taking me back to those tumultuous days. I admit that I wronged you for a long time, and I want you to know that I'm sorry. The simplicity of the statement belied the complexity of emotions it stirred. Max's apology, arriving years after his deceit had altered the course of our lives, seemed an inadequate balm for the wounds once inflicted. Yet the sincerity behind the words was palpable, even through the digital medium. It was nice to receive an apology, albeit delayed. The message served as a reminder of the immense personal and professional growth that had occurred since those dark days. The apology, though late, was a closure of sorts, an acknowledgement of wrongdoing that I had never expected to receive. It underscored a fundamental truth I had come to realize. People can change, sometimes profoundly. However, it was too late for any reconciliation or redemption in our personal relationship. Years had passed, and with them, the pain had faded into a scar that no longer hurt, but served as a reminder of my resilience. I had moved on, building a life that was rich in fulfillment and devoid of the shadows that once loomed so large. Everyone involved had moved on with their lives. Max, following his incarceration and the scandal that had rocked his world, had presumably spent his years in reflection and, hopefully, repentance. Victoria, too, was just a character in a chapter of my past that had long since been closed. The company, my colleagues, and I had all evolved, growing into roles and lives that our former selves could scarcely have imagined. Reflecting on Max's message, I felt a profound sense of peace. Forgiving him was not about erasing the past, but about affirming my own journey from victim to victor, from betrayed wife to a global leader. Forgiveness was a gift I gave myself, a release from any residual chains that might have unknowingly held a corner of my spirit captive. As I replied to Max, my response was concise and gracious. Thank you for your apology, Max. I appreciate your words and am glad to hear of your reflections. I have moved on and wish you well in doing the same. Sending the email, I felt the final weight of that old saga lift. I turned back to my work, to the projects and people that filled my days with purpose and joy. The upcoming conference, where I would share my experiences and insights, awaited my preparation, another opportunity to influence and inspire. As I walked through the halls of the company that afternoon, greeting employees and discussing ongoing projects, the sense of community and achievement was palpable. We were not just building a business, we were crafting legacies of integrity and leadership. That evening, as I penned a chapter in my upcoming book, reflecting on the intersections of personal growth and professional leadership, I included a section on the power of closure and forgiveness. The narrative had evolved from one of overcoming betrayal to embracing the future with open arms, a testament to the enduring human capacity for renewal and redemption. The journey from those dark days to a life filled with light and purpose was a story worth telling, a narrative that would hopefully inspire others to find strength in their challenges and turn their deepest trials into their greatest triumphs.